Today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is all about breaking down the 53-man roster. Were there any mistakes? And also diving into the fact that keeping Cam Robinson has value for the Texans and not for the player.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texan podcast is for Texan fans all around. I'm your Texans credentialed media member and football analyst, John Hickman. A little different background today, but we are still talking Texans. And first-time listeners, I appreciate you for stopping by, lending your ear every day. As from the Himalayas, thank you for coming back and continuing to listen to the show. Like I said, today's episode is all about breaking down the initial 53-man roster. What it looks like. Is this the final roster? It is not. Initial was kind of highlighted under light on the Texans media graphic that was put out Tuesday evening. And what should we look for the Texans? The value in keeping Cam Robinson. Hey, a lot of you guys may look at Cam Robinson and say your career in the NFL hasn't been what it was hyped up to be. However, what was the alternative for the Houston Texans? We'll dive into that. Kicking off today's show, just looking at the 53-man roster breakdown and if there were any mistakes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. For the Houston Texans 53-man roster, the Texans released or waived 28 players Tuesday to get down to that 53 number. The notable names: Myles Bryant, Harrison Bryant, who the Houston Texans just recently traded for, Trent Brown, who never suited up or practiced for the Houston Texans, and Jakob Johnson. Houston will carry 3 QBs, 5 running backs, 7 receivers, 2 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen, 10 defensive linemen, 5 linebackers, 8 DBs, including 4 cornerbacks and 3 specialists. Now, I found some of the decisions to release players quite questionable, specifically letting go of Myles Bryant and Jakob Johnson, as well as having starting off the year with 2 tight ends. That kind of puzzles me a little bit. I anticipate I may receive some backlash for this opinion, but given how much this team has shown us the importance of running the ball, releasing Johnson, who is a true fullback, and keeping British Brooks is confusing to me on the initial 53-man roster. I think that Johnson may come back on the practice squad. So I look at that, something that should have been flipped. British Brooks going to the practice squad and starting the year off with Johnson. Johnson is a seasoned, polished NFL fullback and did a great job showing us his value as a fullback. I'm emphasizing fullback. And for special teams crowd out there, trust me when I say this, I understand how much special teams matters to this team. I get it. A lot of these decisions that we saw Tuesday to get down to the 53-man roster, a lot of those moves has Frank Ross written all over it. Johnson has over 700 career snaps on special teams. Brooks, who this team likes a lot, has a lot of versatility when I talk about Brooks. He's versatile. He can also be a running back when needed to. He also can, what he can do on special teams. In my opinion, the versatility doesn't mean much when it won't be showcased consistently. This isn't the NBA where tweeners get a lot of burn now. No. What are you good at? And are you better at a specific role and job if you are not a starter than the next man up? And I disagree with that. I know he can do a bunch of different things, and that's great, but he doesn't block as a fullback like Jakob Johnson does. Additionally, Johnson would have given Houston more flexibility as an inline blocker, which can make justifying moving on from Harrison Bryant and Luke Lachey from the initial 53-man roster. I'm going to continue to highlight the word initial because Nick Caserio was speaking with the media today, and I'm sure he's going to say a lot of things like right now, at this time, at this juncture. So a lot of things we're going to expect to see change and be different by the time week 1 rolls around. Of course, they're going to put together who they want to bring back on their practice squad to create flexibility for themselves. We'll get into that, but right now I thought keeping Johnson, not bringing back Johnson and keeping Brooks on the roster for the initial 53-man roster was just confusing for me. And I want to highlight no Brevin Jordan this year. Harrison Bryant, who the Houston Texans look to bring back on their practice squad. Okay, that's important. Luke Lachey looked to be brought back on their practice squad. None of those guys will be on the initial 53-man roster. Going with 2 tight ends is a choice, right? And what Johnson provides in terms of being able to line in line as a wide blocker, I think that also gives him more value. But we also know that the Houston Texans will be operating without Joe Mixon. A lot of these moves feel like it was a decision to keep some of these players to give themselves the flexibility in the running back room, showing a little bit more running back by committee, though that kind of confuses me as well because I thought Jawar Jordan did a better job this preseason in training camp than Bridge Brooks. Moving on from Myles Bryant, it's also a head scratcher for me. Was a true nickel cornerback, good depth, great depth, actually, veteran with a ton of experience. Houston now operates with 4 corners on the roster, one of which is Tremont Smith, who deserved the spot, of course. But Bryant was a trustworthy player on the field, and now his role seems to be going to Jalen Smith, a rookie the Houston Texans like a lot. They put him out there on the field a ton during preseason. So now we look at what his role could be with this franchise in his rookie year. Obviously, they put him out there. Majority of his snaps was outside just to get him going. They also flirted with the idea dime packages at practice where we saw Jalen Petrie play back deep. Kamar Lassiter shifted inside with Jalen Smith playing outside. So this is a team defensively that will find ways to play towards the player's strengths. And I want to shout out the Houston Texans offense between C.J. Stroud and Titus Howard. They've been shooting shots, right? Last year didn't work, and they're letting everybody know why. Schematically, we just weren't in a great place. So now when I look at this team on the defensive side of the ball, hadn't been a lot of jeopardizing players by playing them at their weak spots or not putting them in a position to succeed. So curious to see how that pans out. But Myles Bryant, who could be brought back to the Houston Texans practice squad, right? I wouldn't rule that out. Myles Bryant was a player that I thought did enough to make the initial 53-man roster. So there were some moves that the Houston Texans made. I don't think there was a lot of bad moves. I think that the initial 53-man roster is pretty solid. You got great depth at the wide receiver spot, defensive line spot. You got great depth at the linebacker spot. And I think that for the most part, they made the right decisions for every position group. But when I look at what they've been emphasizing, it's been the best man competition. Who will be the best man will win that competition. And it's also been a strong emphasis on the ability to run the ball. Johnson was a player. Bryant was a player that I thought showed to be the best man at his cornerback position and nickelback for a depth piece, a player that you can trust out there in coverage. Johnson showed the ability to be a valuable piece in terms of being able to be a helper when the running back is running behind you. Created contact on the run. I mean, just go look at some of those plays against the Minnesota Vikings and a couple against Carolina Panthers. So we'll see how Houston goes about creating the final roster. Again, I'm emphasizing this is the initial roster. I'm of the mindset, I had conversations with a few people that don't be surprised if the Houston Texans make some moves to give themselves more flexibility or take the flexibility that they've already created with some of the salary cap that they've created to go out there and acquire a player. Joe Mixon is starting the year off on the PUP list. He will be at least out for 4 games. I'm of the mindset they've been treating him like Christian Harris. He may not play all year. If he does come back, maybe late November, early December, which is where that playoff run starts. But not a lot of information on Joe Mixon right now, which is kind of worrying to me, concerning to me. 53-man roster, did they make any mistakes? In my opinion, just a couple, but not enough to jeopardize the overall makeup of the roster. Now, when we come back, we have to look at keeping Cam Robinson. There's value in keeping Cam Robinson, so I can't wait to talk to you guys about that. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, building their championship squads. If you haven't joined the league yet, now is the perfect time, and it's happening all on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Like Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and with brand new features that make the game even better. You want more ways to play? Try the new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lower scoring team gets eliminated each week until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? You can do that. Try the new Draft with Friends mode. The NFL season kickoff is September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Welcome back, Texans listeners out there in the Texans world. Not the energy that I normally bring. Again, I'm in a different place right now, but it's still talking Texans. We have an important request for you guys, though. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like. And also, you can tell us how you feel or have any questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/surveys to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, I want to see Texas fans have a chance to win a gift card. Show me on social media. So that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Now, as we continue with our conversation on the Houston Texans, busy Tuesday. I want to shout out to McNair's. They visited Aldine High School while Nick Casario, D'Amico Ryan, they were trying to crunch numbers and get down to the 53-man number that they need to start the year off. The McNair's was doing some great community service, donating X-Tech shoulder pads to Aldine High School football team. So that's great. Also, the Texans announced the following injury designations on the reserve PUP: Danico Autry, Tank Dell, Kurt Hines. Of those three, I don't think we'll see Tank Dell this year. I think Tommy Togiai has done enough to kind of have Houston move on from Kurt Hines. When we look at the Houston Texans keeping three quarterbacks, and I mentioned, hey, that third quarterback spot that they're keeping Graham Mertz could be because they'll have some flexibility to move on from Graham once a player is ready to return. Danico Autry could very well be that player that the Houston Texans look to move on from once it's time. Joe Mixon starts the year off on the NFI list. Jalen Reed is on the reserve list, but he is designated for return. So got to keep an eye out on that. Also, another player that Houston could use to call up and move on from someone else. Looking at keeping that three quarterbacks, 5 running backs. Some of these numbers will be, in my opinion, matriculated a little bit. Now, keeping Cam Robinson, smart move for the Texans. No doubt about it. Part of me thinks the trade conversation might have been kicked off by Robinson and his team because, listen, guys, if you've been around the game, if you've watched the game long enough, you understand that for a lot of these players, once a starter, always a starter. But it is clear the writing was on the wall. And with so many few teams needing a starting left tackle, not just a tackle, left tackle. Cam Robinson does not play right tackle in his career. I've said it multiple times here on the show, just talking with people around the league, specifically in Jacksonville. You do not want him to leave the left side. So teams needing few left tackles. And by the way, the Houston Texans traded Austin Deckles over to the Chargers. Got a 7th-round pick back for him. So that's a great thing. That puts Houston in the bind trade-wise. Very few teams need them. That kind of forces the Houston Texans to kind of do more to get off of them. Also consider this, guys. If the Texans were to trade Cam Robinson, they would absorb about $8.75 million in dead cap. It's a lot of money in dead cap. Okay, that plays into future contracts. You guys know about the contracts that are coming up. And that would also likely still force him to have to pick a portion of his base salary, around $2 million. They would have to pick that up, depending on how the deal was structured, resulting in a negative cap impact of roughly $3 million. To execute a trade like this, it also may have to include some draft compensation. None of that, and I mean none of that, is worth the value he brings for this year and this year only. Listen, has Cam shown to be the best 5? No, I don't think he has. I think Titus Howard, we know that. We've seen Titus Howard stonewall some elite edge rushers in the NFL. Okay, then you look at the rookie Ursary. Well, he's been healthy. He's been available all camp, but he's also shown the ability to be able to block for CJ, protect for CJ, and also open up running lanes. So did he show to be the best 5? No, I don't think he did. And he can't play on the right side, nor can he play on the inside. Did he get any preseason snaps once their leg injury happened? Not in a game he didn't. But that doesn't mean he isn't the best or top 6 option. And in case of emergency where the Texans need to break the glass, it is smarter to have Cam as an option than any other tackles that were fighting for a spot. Over 100 starts in the NFL, knows the league, but more importantly, has been through the rigor of an NFL season. And added bonus, he's been at practice and he's been around the team. So the continuity is there for a revamped offense across the board, whether it's playmakers, whether it's a scheme, whether it's inside interior offensive lineman on offense, just the offensive line altogether. You can't downplay the importance of continuity for a team that didn't have it last year, in a position group that didn't have it at all last year. So I think there's a lot of value that bringing back Cam Robinson has that we cannot downplay simply because a vet on this team is needed. And my hope is Cam Robinson is a player that Ursary can lean on. Again, don't want to downplay his understanding of the rigorous NFL season and what that can bring to a body. But you know what I like also? For one, the best man wins, right? Again, they've talked about competition all offseason since Nick Haley arrived. But again, what would trading Cam Robinson have done for the Houston Texans? Houston has had a tendency of being generous for players. This time, just staying put when the value doesn't add up and keeping the player is better for the organization. I think so. Houston made some decisions when they let go of some of these guys, right, to get down to that number. But having someone like Cam Robinson, who isn't the best, right? Not sure if Cam Robinson has a Pro Bowl under his season under his belt. Not sure of that, but he's played in the division just last year. He understands the division. He's also played for a team that made a playoff run last year. These things matter, especially if Cam Robinson buys into his role at this time. And again, did you want Zach Thomas out there? Did you want Austin Nicholas out there? Did you want any of those other options out there? No, you would not. Side note, again, keeping 3 QBs was a choice to say the least. I think it gives Houston the flexibility to move on from a play at a perfect time. So I'll give my initial thoughts on the 53-man roster when we return. Texan fans, listen, the NFL season is here. I'm excited. College football kicks off. It kicked off last week. That was week 0. Week 1 kicks off this week. A lot of great games will be on YouTube. Football is back. NFL season is here. And FanDuel is making sure you are ready to kick off with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. A lot of my listeners and viewers have hit me up on YouTube, or they may hit me up in the DMs and just say, hey, man, that Locked On offer for FanDuel, I love it. They love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. They got it all. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Saturdays, Mondays, Thursdays, and I think a couple times this year, Fridays, if you're looking at the NFL. They got every day, right? So are you ready to play? If so, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet with a chance to win that $300. Welcome back, listeners and viewers. Hey, listen, we always got something for y'all, right? Locked On Network loves y'all. Locked On Texans love y'all. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV presents College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll on Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Best network out there, local experts giving you what you need, not none of the other or extra. But let's say a little bit extra here on the Locked On Texans podcast. My final thoughts on this roster and what it looks like. Before I do that, I absolutely love what the Texan players are doing right now. CJ Stroud was on ESPN talking about last year. Stephen A. Smith had an opportunity to ask him about the offensive line and how things are going to change. And he highlighted that we got guys in the building that this is exactly what he said. Stroud said on ESPN First Take, when asked about the offensive line, of course, we traded Landry, but I felt we brought in a rookie who's hungry, who wants to get better, who's doing a great job in camp. And Titus is back at tackle. He looks great. We have a lot of good pieces. And then he also highlighted on First Take that, hey, man, the scheme wasn't what it needed to be last year, which held us back, something that we've talked about here on this show plenty of times. But Titus Howard also got in on a bunch, on the mix. And Titus Howard told ESPN the biggest difference is our mentality. This type of offense fits a lot of the guys that we have in the room, being able to start the game off strong as an offensive line and be able to finish games. Also running the ball and then using the run to open up the pass, not coming out getting bleeping negative yards on outside zone run plays, stuff that really didn't fit us. They're fighting back. They're fighting back. And I love it. Let me tell you why I love it. Number one, the Houston Texans came into this season with a target on their back from the national media simply because a lot of people on the outside looking in didn't understand the role that Bobby Slowick and Chris Strausser played in an abysmal offensive season. They didn't understand it. You had a few talking heads here and there, but here on the Locked On Texan podcast, we got to it early in the season like something's off, something's wrong. I got to give credit where credit is due. Brian Bearfield, former co-host, mentioned after the Week 2 victory against the Chicago Bears, something's up offensively. And then from there, we start to see everything kind of unravel and go from there. And I think the big blow up where Bobby Slowick really got put on blast was the Detroit Lions game, where nobody felt like the Houston Texans should have lost that game. And so to see these players kind of fight back and say, hey, listen, y'all, we were compromised a lot last year. That is not who we are. What y'all saw is not who we will be. We're a different team. We're a different bunch. I think this is going to be a better offensive line. Case in point, what he said, not getting negative yards on outside zone run plays. That's a straight shot at Bobby Slowick. Now, with them saying all of these things and they're going on a little mini campaign, I love it. Fight back. That shows the toughness that they have now. They got to go out there and prove it. Now, my initial thoughts on this roster, is this the final roster? What to look for? No. Go look at the Houston Texans graphic that they put out on their social media page. Look at the word initial, and there's a light right above it. A little playoff. I could be reading deep into it, but I don't think I am. This is not the final roster. Here's what I think is going to happen. Houston will reassess Joe Mixon at the bye week. The first 4 weeks of kickoff, they may activate him if there's any sign of light there in terms of him being able to go. Early bye week for the Houston Texans. It plays in their favor, right? They'll reassess him because now I'm of the mindset that I don't think he'll play this year. After that, they'll be able to look at where their salary cap is, flexibility that they've created with finances there, and also look at around the league. There's also some players that have been released that I think the Houston Texans could really benefit from having. A couple cornerbacks. There was a cornerback, I forget his name, but from the Baltimore Ravens that was recently released as well. This is hard to see Houston going throughout the whole season with 4 cornerbacks. But I will look for Houston to stay aggressive, revamping, reshaping this roster by bringing in the best of the best that's available and out there. Wouldn't be shocked if the Houston Texans made a trade midseason. Wouldn't be shocked that trade may end up looking like moving on from Cam Robinson. Wouldn't be shocked because remember this, guys, though Trent Brown was released, a lot of what I talked about with Cam Robinson was kicking off the year. But though Trent Brown was released, Houston could very well bring him back. I was at the joint practice a couple weeks ago. He was off to the sideline working out. And from some reports and some things I've heard, he's back to a healthier place where you can have Trent Brown come in at right tackle, Blake Fisher come in at your left tackle if need be. Maybe that allows and open up space for Houston to move on from Cam when the time is right. I want to emphasize, I don't think the time was right for Houston at this point to kick off the year. There's no value in that. So Houston is in a place where, depending on how they look after those first 4 games, 2-2, 3-1, they open up the year off in SoCal against the Rams, and it looks like Matthew Stafford will be available. But do I fear him? Not as much as I normally would because of the defense. It's all about what the offense can do. Those first 4 weeks will give Houston a good assessment on if there needs to be changes or additions to the tight end room, if there needs to be changes or additions to the running back room. Is there a player that we initially released that we brought back on the practice squad that we feel as though right now is the time to call up? Keep an eye out on Myles Bryant. Keep an eye out on Myles Bryant, guys. He brings a lot of value to being able to relieve Jalen Petrie on obvious passing downs. And also with CJ Gardner-Johnson out, who, by the way, didn't start the season on the PUP list. And reports affirm that the Texans initially did not place him on the PUP list. Instead, the team plans to carry him on the 53-man roster, which means he could be returning back a lot earlier than what initial thoughts and reports were when he went down at the Greenbrier. So I like what a roster is. I think it's okay enough right now between now and the start of the season. It gives Houston plenty of time to scout the league, see who's available, scout their team, see what's going on, get their practice squad together, and have guys ready when need be. And I also still like the idea of Houston, once they get to a place in the season where they can understand this is working, this is not working, we have a little extra cash. If we feel like if we make one move, that move can kind of get us over the hump or carry us to where we need to be, then they have the money to do so, and they've created roster flexibility to do so as well. There's a reason why I think they're keeping 3 quarterbacks. We'll see how that pans out for the Houston Texans. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Also follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. The Houston Texans are hearing from Nick Caserio today, so I'll dive into that on the later show. But until next time, ladies and gents, Texan fans across the nation, peace.